It was the moment that broke the internet before going viral was even a standard industry metric. In 2012, the world watched as a 17-year-old boy in a baggy t-shirt stepped onto the London stage, met with the visible skepticism of a global audience and the sharp tongue of Simon Cowell. But as a news organization looking back at those archives, we see more than just a performance. We see a total subversion of the pop star archetype that had dominated the airwaves for decades. At the time, the media narrative was focused entirely on his appearance, a shallow perspective that nearly cost the music world one of its most significant talents. Reports from behind the scenes suggest that the atmosphere in the wings was one of extreme tension, with producers unsure if the young tenor would even be able to speak, let alone sing. When the first notes of the prayer rang out, it wasn't just a vocal triumph. It was a complete shattering of the glass ceiling for unconventional stars. Journalists at the time noted that the standing ovation lasted significantly longer than what was shown in the televised edit, signaling the birth of a phenomenon. This wasn't a manufactured boy band moment. It was raw, unrefined power that forced the industry to look past the surface. Yet, even as the accolades poured in, investigative reports began to surface regarding the immense pressure being placed on this teenager. While the headlines shouted about a new star, the reality behind the curtain was far more complex. The media was so focused on the voice that they missed the person behind it, setting the stage for a decade of public misunderstanding that Jonathan would eventually have to dismantle piece by piece. As he moved into 2026, those early recordings serve as a stark contrast to the polished, self-assured man he has become, but the core questions remain. How did he survive the machine that breaks so many others, and what was the true cost of that overnight fame? Behind the gold records and the sold-out performances lay a story of internal conflict that threatened to end the music forever. For years, Jonathan Antoine's public appearances were marked by a certain level of mystery, a distance that many critics lazily labeled as shyness or disinterest. However, our deep dive into his personal journey reveals a much more harrowing reality. In the years following his initial success, Antoine battled significant mental health challenges that remained largely out of the tabloids, thanks to a protective inner circle. He has recently opened up about those darkest nights, using careful language to describe periods where he felt he might simply check out of his own life. The industry is notoriously difficult for those with sensitive dispositions, and for Jonathan, the noise of fame was often deafening. We've seen reports of him struggling to cope with the sheer volume of public expectation, leading to moments where he considered leaving the spotlight entirely to preserve his own safety. This wasn't just about stage fright. It was a profound battle for his own well-being. By 2026, he has become an advocate for mental health awareness, but the path to this point was paved with obstacles that would have crushed a lesser spirit. In his recent interviews, he hints at a time when his thoughts turned toward permanently leaving the scene, a coded admission of the severity of his depression. This struggle was exacerbated by the constant scrutiny of his physical health, with the media tracking every change in his appearance like a scientific experiment. What the public didn't see was a young man fighting for the right to exist on his own terms. His resilience in this period is perhaps his most impressive feat, far outweighing any high C he could hit on stage. It was during these years of silence that the foundation for his current strength was built, proving that the most important performances happen when the cameras aren't even rolling. Sometimes, the most important discovery isn't a new song, but a new understanding of one's own mind. In a series of landmark disclosures between 2024 and 2025, Jonathan Antoine finally provided the world with the missing piece of the puzzle, his diagnosis as autistic. For those who had followed his career from the beginning, this revelation acted as a Rosetta Stone, translating years of awkward interviews and unusual stage mannerisms into a narrative of neurodivergent triumph. From a journalistic perspective, this shift in the story is monumental. It moved the conversation away from "what is wrong with him?" to how did he achieve this much while navigating a world not built for him. The 2026 perspective on his career is now viewed through this lens of advocacy. Jonathan has spoken extensively about how the sensory overload of a concert hall, the lights, the thunderous applause, the backstage chaos, was a constant challenge that he had to learn to manage. This wasn't a limitation, it was a different way of experiencing the art. Experts in neurodiversity have praised his transparency, noting that a high-profile figure in the classical world being so open about their spectrum diagnosis is a game-changer for representation. This transparency has also changed the way fans interact with him. His holiday hangout sessions and digital communities are built on a foundation of mutual understanding and acceptance. The rumors that once plagued him regarding his difficult nature have been replaced by a deep respect for his process. He has effectively re-educated his audience, showing them that his social distance wasn't a lack of warmth, but a necessary boundary for his own neurological health. This section of his life marks the transition from being a talent show winner to becoming a legitimate cultural icon who stands for something much larger than music. He is no longer just a singer. He is a voice for a community that is often silenced or misunderstood in the high-pressure world of entertainment. In the world of music, a split is often synonymous with a scandal. But for Jonathan Antoine, the end of his professional partnership was a necessary act of self-preservation. When Jonathan and Charlotte officially went their separate ways, the rumor mill went into overdrive. Speculation suggested everything from financial disputes to secret feuds, but the reality, as we've analyzed it in 2026, was far more professional and poignant. The duo was a product of a specific moment in time, a reality TV narrative that required a pair. However, as Jonathan's individual artistry began to outgrow the duo format, a choice had to be made. Walking away from a massive joint contract wasn't a sign of failure, but a bold declaration of independence. From a business standpoint, this move was incredibly risky. Most reality stars fade into obscurity the moment they lose their hook. But Antoine used this transition to build a solo brand that was rooted in authentic classical excellence. We've seen internal industry reports that suggest the split was handled with more grace than the media gave it credit for, with both parties recognizing that their artistic paths were diverging. Jonathan's solo career has been defined by a refusal to sell out or lean into the easy, pop opera tropes that the industry usually demands. Instead, he has focused on technical mastery and choosing projects that resonate with his personal values. This period of his life was marked by a rebranding that happened organically, driven by the sheer quality of his voice rather than a massive PR machine. As we look at his status today, it's clear that the solo risk paid off. He is no longer half of a story. He is the protagonist. The speculation about their current relationship continues to drive engagement, but Jonathan has remained focused on the future, proving that his talent wasn't dependent on a partnership, but was a singular force that was always destined to stand alone. Here is a scientific reality to the human voice that most listeners ignore. A true tenor doesn't actually reach his prime until his third decade. In 2026, we are witnessing what vocal experts are calling the Antoine Renaissance. For years, Jonathan was known for his raw power, a teenager with a massive instrument that he was still learning to control. But as he has matured, so has the texture and depth of his sound. Journalistic reviews of his recent performances note a newfound darkness and richness in his lower register, coupled with an effortless clarity in his high notes that was previously unattainable. His collaboration with the legendary Diane Warren has been a focal point of this evolution. To see a writer of her caliber, someone who has written for the likes of Celine Dion and Aerosmith, tailor music specifically for Jonathan's voice speaks volumes about his standing in the industry. This isn't just classical crossover music. It is a new genre entirely. We are seeing reports that his recent recording sessions have been some of the most productive of his career, with a focus on storytelling through song, rather than just showing off vocal range. There has been some controversy among purists who believe he should stick to traditional opera, but the 2026 market has shown that there is a massive hunger for his unique style. He is successfully bridging the gap between the grandiosity of the opera house and the emotional intimacy of the modern ballad. This prime period is also marked by a significant increase in his technical stamina. He is now capable of performing grueling tour schedules that would have been impossible during his younger, more vulnerable years. This vocal maturity is a testament to his dedication to the craft, proving that he didn't just have a gift, but that he worked tirelessly to refine it into the world-class instrument it is today. As we look at the landscape of 2026, it's clear that Jonathan Antoine has achieved something far more difficult than fame. He has achieved longevity. His journey from a shocking audition to a respected global artist is a blueprint for how to navigate the modern celebrity machine without losing one's soul. He has bypassed the traditional gatekeepers of the music industry by building a direct, unshakable bond with his supporters. This fan-first model has allowed him to thrive even when the mainstream media looked elsewhere. We've analyzed his digital footprint, and the data shows a community that is intensely loyal, driven by Jonathan's authenticity and his willingness to share the unfiltered version of his life. He hasn't just survived the controversies and the health scares. He has incorporated them into his narrative, making him one of the most relatable figures in classical music. The inspiring journey we talk about today isn't just about music. It's about the triumph of the human spirit over the expectations of others. As he looks toward the future, the rumors of new international collaborations and a potential return to the world's biggest stages suggest that his influence is only growing. He stands as a reminder that being different isn't a barrier to success. It is the very thing that makes success possible. In 2026, Jonathan Antoine isn't just a singer who won a talent show. He is a testament to the power of persistence. His voice remains a once-in-a-lifetime phenomenon, but it is his character that has truly captured the world's heart. As this special report concludes, one thing is certain. The world is finally listening to Jonathan Antoine, not just for the notes he hits,